Freedom of the press refers to the fundamentals that ensures communication and expression through various media are exercised freely in the discharge of his duties as the fourth estate of the realm. How free is the Nigerian press? I am Blessing Naichi, and this is Report on ITV.
The press should be given the freedom to express, at least to communicate to the masses what is actually happening. But today, that freedom is not actually there because most, like the press we have today, they are being censored by the government. At least they monitor what they say, and there are some certain things that is happening in the society that the press is supposed to reveal to the society, but they can't be able to do it because of what the society they found themselves. If actually the government give the press the freedom of speech to communicate to the society, because it's not everyone that have the mix to know what is happening, but through the press, which are the watchdog of the society, the masses, both those in the village, those in the city, either through radio or through print press or other print medias, they are able to know actually what is going on within their environment. So we do all the, at least like me, I would plead that the government should allow the press, give them that true freedom to hear their view, that true freedom of speech, to communicate actually what is happening in the society to the masses. Because, you know, the truth is this, the government is afraid of the press. If there's any man, any politician is afraid of, any government is afraid of, is the press. Why? Because they know the kind of question to ask. They are being trained to ask some sensitive questions. And they are being trained for investigating what, especially those investigating journalism. At least they can be able to dig deep and get the root of whatever is happening in the society. So because of these things, the government, they are afraid of what? The press. Most of them do like to shield their, how would I put it? Most of them do like to hide those hidden things. They don't want the press to reveal to the masses, of which the press are aware of. So if the press is actually allowed or given the freedom of speech or to communicate freely to the society, actually we will live in a better society. That is what I have to say. We will live in a better society because the press are the main set of people that will bridge the masses with the government. So my own opinion is that let us all encourage the press. Let us give them the freedom of expression, to express and communicate to the masses freely. Let the government give them that right, because the government today, they are not doing the right thing.
You know, we have four estates of the realm. First is the executive, the second is the legislature, and the third one is the judiciary, while the fourth estate of the realm is the press. Even though the press is not part of the political arrangement, the three estates of the realms have allocations. It is only the press that have no allocation. If you go to the prisons today, you see journalists that are incarcerated in our prisons simply because of the fact that they publish news. It is their responsibility constitutionally to publish and to disseminate information to the public. It was the third president of United States of America, Thomas Jefferson, that said that it is better to have a free press without a government than to have a government without a free press. That demystifies the importance or the efficacy of the press. Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria also give credence to the freedom of the press. It is sad that the fourth estate of the realm is sequestered, is sequestrated by those in power. want to say that for us to have real or pragmatic democracy, the press should not be gagged. Government should not stifle. Government should not strangulate the press. Government should not influence the press to disseminate information, malicious information in favor of the government. They should be given that independence to operate, and the salaries of journalists should be increased for those that are the owners of private media houses and even government-owned media houses. Should take that upon themselves to pay journalists good salaries because of the risk associated with the job.
Freedom of expression is a constitutional right, and that also includes press freedom. And to that extent, you find that we have laws that has made it possible for the Nigerian press to, practice their profession, in a manner that allows them to have that sense of freedom of expression. And when you look at provisions of the Constitution, Section 39 allows for the freedom of the press of our 1999 Constitution as amended, and also the African Charter on human and people's rights, which of course has been domesticated in Nigeria as an act of the National Assembly, also allows for freedom of the press. And the good thing about the freedom of the press is that states now have some role to play. Like in Edo, we're in the process of amending Edo criminal law. The criminal code, what used to be the criminal code law, but it's now our Edo State criminal law, which of course has abrogated, the provisions of sedition. I know that the Supreme Court had already resolved the issue of sedition in the Chikiobi versus DPP case that went as far as the Nigerian Supreme Court, where it was decided that it contravenes the provisions, right? Or rather, the Supreme Court could not invalidate the sedition law, right, in that particular case, in the Chikiobi's case. But the Edo State government, in its wisdom, felt that this law has outlived its usefulness, because globally speaking, you can't talk of sedition, in a modern society where freedom of expression is guaranteed constitutionally and by international and regional instruments like the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Not just the law of sedition, we also have the abolition of criminal defamation. And that was one way by which people, could go to the police. The issue of defamation ought to be a tort, a civil wrong, not a criminal offense. So we've had harassment here and there, and even from government. So the wisdom of this present government, the provisions in our own criminal law on sedition and criminal defamation has been abrogated to allow for freedom of the press. So that once that law is passed by the Edo State House of Assembly, it therefore means that no journalist will be harassed under the guise of charging them under sedition, or under the guise of charging them under the criminal defamation provisions. So in those states, you find that we have moved a step ahead of other states in this regard. It is for us to look at the fact that you now have what we call the new media. And the Cybercrime Act has been passed at the federal level. And to a very large extent, the problem we've always had is one that has to do with fake news. So that the professional bodies like the Nigerian Union of Journalists now need to self-regulate, advising their members not to get themselves involved in spreading fake news, whether through the social media or through the real media. Just as I earlier mentioned, you find that the Chikiobi's case, to a very large extent, allowed the existing law on sedition to gain traction. Because what did they do? The Supreme Court in that particular case applied the principle in the American system, the 11 Communist case that talked about the test of clear and present danger. But just as I've noted, in Edo State, that particular law has been abrogated, though the law is yet to be passed by the Edo State Assembly. But the Edo State Executive Council has approved a new bill that has made it possible for journalists to operate freely. No more charges on account of sedition, no more charges on account of criminal defamation. So I think other states in Nigeria should take a cue from what Edo State government has done, so that we can have a system where people are free to express themselves, either through the traditional media as journalists or even through the social media.
Well, judging by history, we have had quite a number of situations where journalists have actually been penalized, rightly or wrongly, for speaking the truth. In some cases, I think one case in point not too long ago where a journalist was interviewing, I believe, a governor, and he was actually, I believe, locked up because he actually allowed that interview to air. My question is, if he is not allowed to, interview anybody and anyone with a news story, how does the world get to know what's going on? This is why you have YouTube, you have Facebook, you have online media. Gone are the days where you only depended on the newspaper and the editor. Now, news is everywhere. Twitter, and you see how that played out during the elections in the US. And so I believe that if there's any set of people on the global market or in the global planets that should have a freedom of expression, it should be journalists, because most of us have our own personal views about things, and there are also ethics by which they govern journalists. And so I don't know that any journalist will go against those ethics, but to do the right thing and speak about what is happening globally. And one of the big things we know clearly is bad news sells. And so everybody's always looking towards, forward to the bad news. When something is good to the people, good for the people, and people speak out, on all of the stuff that's happening, they blame it on the journalist. The journalist is a means to get the expression out to the people, and vice versa. If we didn't have journalists, then we wouldn't know what's happening. Now people have your phone, and basically you see a crime happening or you see something happening, and you pick up your phone and then you record it, and immediately it's on social media, it's on YouTube. Everybody is now a journalist, if you think about it, right? So I believe that, journalists should definitely be allowed freedom of expression.
Having dropped 9 places in the World Press Freedom Index, along with other reasons provided by respondents, they have unanimously opined that the Nigerian press is not free. Appeals have been made to the government and its agencies to allow freedom of the press for the benefit of the nation and its citizens. Also, the professional body, Nigerian Union of Journalists, have been urged to ensure that its members uphold the ethics of the profession. I am Blessing Aichi.